So before I begin, I just want to say I'm very happy to see that Tower of God is trending today. This makes me incredibly happy. The start of a new era of anime has officially begun with today, April 1st, 2020. It's kind of interesting that I say that on all days, but I promise you, it is not a joke, it's not a lie. This is honestly the start of something really big that is going to make waves within the anime industry, because this first episode in this entire series of Tower of God really is heavy. For instance, what I mean by that is, depending on how this series is and how God of High School is after that has already been announced, will determine if we get any more colossal webtoons that get animated. For instance, An Ordinary and countless other series that could potentially come after it. So because of this information, I think many can agree we want this anime to be very successful, and if it is successful, like I said, this is the start of a new era. So I'm excited because this really can set a trend for the next decade, honestly, of anime, because when you think about it, when the previous decade started for anime, it kind of started off with SAO, and it kind of introduced a whole new era of, let's say, VR anime, to also just like a Sekai series and stuff like that. And I know there was a Sekai and VR, anime, etc. before SAO, but it doesn't change the fact, though, that when SAO came out, it really did change how anime was presented and all that. So I really think that Tower of God can definitely do something very similar and has a lot of potential, so I'm very excited. So, to get right into it, if you have been keeping up with what I've been saying on social media and, what I said on YouTube, then you were probably very aware of what was sent to me early last week. Crunchyroll actually sent me the, first 2 episodes of Tower of God relatively early. Like, they sent them to me early last week. I got to watch them. Obviously, I could not really talk in detail about it because for common sense reasons. So yeah, but I'm not a sponsor, by the way. Just to clarify, I'm not sponsored to do this video or say anything, etc. Just the good guys and girls at Crunchyroll sent me, like I said, some stuff. They sent me the 2 episodes, and they sent me some snacks to watch. I actually ate most of the snacks, honestly. I really don't have any left while I was snacking these past 2 days without power, if you haven't heard. I mean, there literally has been no power in my house for the past 3.5 days, and I just literally got it back around yesterday in the middle of the day. So it's kind of crazy. I'm kind of delayed and behind on My Hero and what I will watch, but what happens happens. I guess you live through it, etc. I can't really talk in detail about what episode 2 is, but I will just say one thing. It is a step up from the first episode. Like, it's amazing. It's a really good episode, and I really think webtoon readers are going to have a good time with it. If you are new to my channel, or this is the first time you've seen a Tower of God video from me, etc., I'm not going to lie to you. I have read the webtoon. Now, I'm not up to date. I'm around chapter 290, somewhere around in there for part 2. I'm not really that far, like in terms of being completely caught up, but I have read the series. I know what to expect, at least for the next couple of seasons, if it gets a season 2, etc. I do know what to expect, but because of that, I'm going to be very careful not to spoil you newcomers, because this is something that I've been pleading and talking to the webtoon readers for a long time now, is that, please don't spoil the newcomers to this series. It's incredibly important, because Tower of God is the equivalent of One Piece in the webtoon industry. So if this does well, like I said, it really will make waves. It'll set a trend for other series to get animated that are not known as much. So it excites me if this series does really good. But getting back into it, though, I just once again want to say, please, webtoon readers, the people that have read Tower of God, do not spoil these newcomers. I know you want to, but please don't, because if you're a fan of this series, and I think most of you are, then obviously you want this series to be successful. Don't make the community angry at the series and the fan base, etc. But okay, enough is enough. I'm sorry, I've delayed long enough. Let's get into my overall thoughts of the first episode. So, right off the bat, visually speaking, it is a major overhaul slash upgrade to the webtoon. Now, I've already discussed this in my kind of talking videos of, like, the trailers, etc., but getting first-hand, like, look at the episode, you can really just see that there's so much they added in terms of just uplifting the art quality of the first couple of chapters of Tower of God. I've talked about this already, that Tower of God, it has a very rough art style. Early on in the webtoon, it's very rough, and the writer does get progressively better as the story progresses. I mean, where he's at now, where I'm at within the story, it's incredible. It's like night and day in comparison to where, you know, the start of the series is to where I am at in the story, and I haven't even seen the latest content, which I heard is absolutely incredible. So, the point is that at the beginning of the story, it was very rough. It's kind of like some Togashi stuff from Hunter x Hunter. That's pretty much the point I'm getting at. And you have it with this first episode that the artist working on this wanted to keep the roughness of the webtoon, but they uplifted it to make it a little bit better. And one of the big things that really stand out to me is the backgrounds. I don't know how many noticed that, but if you have read the webtoon, then you know that when it came to the early days of Tower of God, there was not many backgrounds. It wasn't that good. And when you look at these backgrounds within this episode, especially when Bam actually arrives to the first floor of the tower and he's about to take his test, the background art is beautiful. I mean, honestly, it is incredible how much detail they put in behind the scenes. And another thing is I just love how the art style is not a traditional anime style. It's very different. Now, this is one of the key major points that are going to be a make it or break it for many that start this series. Because when it comes to anime, people are used to a certain set of rules. For instance, the animation art needs to look like the typical anime you're used to. And usually when series venture off from that design, there's two things that happen. Either A, that series is just a colossal failure, or this series does really well and it gets its own fan base that really loves it. For instance, Mob Psycho. Perfect example with a very unique art style. So I just think that, you know, this art style, I'm fully for it. I love the art style, but it's definitely going to be a big detail that many are going to factor in if they want to continue watching or not, because the line work to the animation, it is not traditional like you would normally be used to, so I can definitely see many contemplating that one. But besides that though, it has beautiful atmosphere to it as well. The music definitely captures what I felt when I was reading Tower of God for the first time. I mean, to the whole, you know, the floor of Tasnel that you have at the end of the episode, where, you know, they're about to have to whittle down the contestants from 400 to 200, the music is just really gripping, and as I've talked about, I've always listened to music while reading this series, or most manga, honestly, when I'm reading, I listen to music, and being able to actually have songs now, and when the soundtrack comes out to be able to listen to it while reading, let's say, Tower of God, it makes me incredibly happy, and I think many can agree with me on that. The music definitely does fit, which gets into the big detail that I want to discuss, which is the opening song and ending song. Now, personally, I love the music in the opening and ending song of Tower of God. Honestly, spectacular start to this new season of anime with these two songs. But I will say, I'm slightly disappointed with the opening song of Tower of God. Now, the music, like I said, great. Visually speaking, the stuff that we do see within the opening looks good. But it's very, like, I guess it kind of flashes to showing, you know, the credits of every individual that worked on, which I think they deserve credit, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like the way the opening was done there wasn't enough detail put into it in comparison to what you would normally see from an opening, and it could kind of turn people away, saying like, whoa, for this to be the first, you know, webtoon anime, etc., you know, you would think that there would be a crazy, pizzazzy opening song, and it's a good song, but visually speaking, I do think it's a little bit lackluster. Now, obviously, this could be an artistic choice, honestly, when I take a moment to think about it, because webtoons are kind of similar to that, like black screen have been switched to a new panel, etc., like they have like a black panel, then they switch to the character panel. Maybe the way they were doing those credits at the beginning, like with the opening, was kind of a reference to how webtoons are read, maybe? I don't know, but that's just my 2 cents. But when it comes to the ending song, that I'm gonna listen on repeat. Like, that is a great freaking ending song. Like, whoa. That, honestly, I wish that was the opening song. That's how good that ending song is. It is super good. I love that ending song. But okay, what is Tower of God about? I think if you have made it to this point, you're probably wondering, so is it worth your time? I mean, obviously, I've been kind of like fanboying this series since the start of this video, but, you know, the point is, let's actually talk about the content, what you can kind of expect from this. So, if you've watched the first episode by now, you most likely have noticed some similarities to other stories you might have read or watched in the past. One of the big obvious ones that come to my mind is Hunter x Hunter. Now, many of you might be scratching your head like, what? Hunter x Hunter? Like, where are you getting that from? Well, there's a lot of things with a lot of characters that kind of look similar to some designs of Hunter x Hunter characters, but there also is some personality that is very similar to Hunter x Hunter characters as well. And I'm not going to get into a lot of details because spoiler reasons, but I will say this. I will say that when it comes to Bam as a character, there is a similarity. It's not exactly identical, but there definitely is a similarity to him and Gon when you really think about it. I mean, the man charged that serpent at the beginning of this episode, and he didn't really care much about his life. And he had to learn the meaning of, you know, facing death itself, you know, fearing death, facing death, etc. And he charged it and really didn't care. For instance, finding Rachel was more important to him than his own life. He didn't really care about his life. He felt like it was expendable in that moment. And it's interesting to think about. And that's why I say that his character, when you look at it at first glance, there is some similarities to Gon. So, that's one. But then you have the design of our new character that was introduced at the end of the episode with the white hair. You know, he looks very similar to Killa. The way he acts and presents himself, he kind of reminds me of Killa. And then you have the one character that was looking through the window. He has like a design that kind of is reminiscent of Hisoka. There's a lot of things about some of these characters that remind you of that. But obviously, the comparisons and similarities don't stop there, but I can't get into it. But there's other things that will remind you of other series. For instance, the whole Black March being able to talk to Bam at the middle half of this episode. Now, that is a big detail. If you have ever watched or read Bleach, then you are definitely aware of the Zanpakuto. You know, how the swords literally have spirits inside of them, etc. You can definitely say that what happened with Black March is very similar to that. Wait, so swords and weapons have spirits within them, and, you know, certain individuals can communicate with them. I think if you're a fan of Bleach, etc., and you like those details, you're probably gonna have a, you know, a fun time with that one. But it doesn't just stop there. There's also the whole aspect of climbing a tower to reach whatever objective you want, basically. And it's interesting to think about because it's also reminiscent of SAO, climbing multiple floors to get higher and higher and all that, and there's a boss at the end of it, you have a test or whatever, and that's kind of what this is, what we have going on within this story. And then there's more details to it as well. We also have the segment with a battle royale, too. You have actual gruesome, mature combat going on within this series with actual people literally dying within this story, which is just ridiculous. Like, the violence honestly shocked me. I didn't expect to see blood and all that within these episodes. I mean, it was in, you know, the webtoon, but I didn't expect to see it completely like that. I thought it was going to be censored, but no, it was savagely shown, which honestly, I appreciate that greatly. I hate censorship, and I'm glad that was added in. So, there's a lot of things here, a lot of themes and different events going on throughout this first episode that will definitely grip many and want to know what is going on, which is another crucial detail that I need to get into. You know how when you start a new series, a lot of anime, or just any series, honestly, not just anime and manga, but TV shows, books, etc., you know how they always want to cram down the exposition in your face, like just shove it down your throat soon as the episode or first chapter or whatever the series starts? I mean, there was exposition in the first episode, but it wasn't like how it normally is in other stories. You were left with so many questions, and honestly, what Heidon actually said within the first episode perfectly summarizes how I feel about the exposition. He's like, all your answers will be answered as you climb the tower, and he pointed up, which is interesting because it's like, you're not going to have everything given to you right now. You're not going to know the whole story. You're not going to know what, the princesses of Zahad is, who the king is. You're not going to really know how this tower works or what regulars and non-regulars are. You're not really going to know what is what. You're going to have to find out as our character continues to climb the tower. So the way exposition is used within this series, I appreciate. It doesn't overload you, and it leaves you in the dark enough to wonder what's going to happen next. It's a really interesting series because of that, and that's one of the other reasons why I got into Tower of God when I first started reading it, is because it didn't try to handhold you. You had to piece things together, which, by the way, piecing things together, if you did not notice, it's not a spoiler because the episode literally presented it. You have the Black March that Bam currently is borrowing from Yuri, the princess, and you have this other character that is introduced towards the end. We don't have a name or anything, but she's like a lizard girl, and you see her weapon she's holding has a very distinct and similar symbol on it in comparison to the Black March. So it starts to make you wonder what is going on there. What kind of details is that and why, etc. So there is definitely foreshadowing, subtle hints, etc. And I think, if you really pay attention closely, the group that's working on this, the animators and all that, they're definitely putting in everything that they possibly can to make this story very successful. So yeah, overall, 2 cents, great first episode, and I'm excited to finally talk about episode 2 when it airs. It's gonna be good. It really is. I'm excited for that one. But I just want to say, guys, I'm so pumped. I'm so happy to be able to actually finally talk about the Tower of God anime, and I'm glad so many people are going to be able to experience this story for the first time. It's just amazing to see. Tell me your honest thoughts. So, how do you feel about everything that was presented in this first episode? How do you feel about Bam chasing after Rachel and all that, and how she wanted to see the stars, and, how Bam was, like, in the darkness, and then she found him, and she was kind of like a shining light? Tell me all your thoughts of how you felt about the first episode. I am incredibly curious. But I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe, stay healthy. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. And with that, Chibi out.